Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because today I get to share a conversation that I had with a good friend with you. This conversation was with Jessica Honegger. Jessica is the founder of Noonday Collection. She's also the host of the Going Scared podcast, and y'all know I talk all the time about doing it scared. She teaches people to go scared, so we are just kindred spirits. We're also really good friends, and she has an amazing story of building her business that is making a global impact. Check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I get to hang out with the CEO and founder of Noonday Collection and my very good friend, Jessica Honegger. Jessica, thanks for being here.
It's so fun to be here.
I'm so glad you're in town. Like, this is a real treat.
It is a treat.
So you have your leadership conference going on, but we got to steal you for a minute. And even off air, we were talking about all the people we know the same.
Yes.
Annie F. Downs. These ladies love. Like, she's our host and MC for all our
she is?
business. She's everyone's best friend, which we know.
Just came from Annie.
Yes.
And yes, going out to dinner with her tonight.
Yeah. So for our listeners that may be new to you, though, that don't know all the people we know in common, tell them a little bit about your business, because I've been learning about your business through another mutual friend, Rachel Hollis. And it's just fascinating how you've built this model. But take us back to the beginning and what your business is and how you had this whole idea in the first place.
Okay, so Noonday Collection, we are a fair trade accessories brand, and we are creating meaningful job opportunities for people around the world.
Okay.
So we partner with artisans in vulnerable communities and communities where most retailers would never want to go and work. And
like where, for example? Like, give us some examples.
Uganda.
Okay.
Haiti.
Okay. Yep.
Ethiopia.
Okay.
These are not places where you have bigger retailers. And so we're trying to create a marketplace for these artisans here in America.
Okay.
And we do that through a network of social entrepreneurs that we call Noonday Ambassadors.
Okay.
So we have about 2,000 women across the country who they've started their own businesses.
Okay.
And they create opportunity for these artisans. And so together we are it's this beautiful equitable circle where we're all have a stake in one another's prosperity.
Yeah.
And we're all just lifting one another up together. 80% of the people we work with are women, because when you give a woman a job, it changes the trajectory of her entire family. But we also realize that in a lot of these countries, men have often been the problem. They've been drinking the money. They haven't been working. They have multiple wives. And so we also really are coming alongside and creating leadership opportunities for men.
Wow.
So it really is seeing entire family units and then therefore communities rise up. And
for them to get the whole vision of what's possible and just a different way of operating and creating an income.
Yeah, when I started off, it was about 7 years ago, and it was a bit accidental. So I didn't have some like lightning bulb moment, but I had a need. My husband and I had 2 children, and we knew we wanted a third, but for our third child, we decided, you know what, let's just like pray about this. I mean, we're not supposed to do it the old-fashioned way. There's a lot of different ways you can bring a child into your family.
Sure.
And so we really felt led to adopt. And as we went down that trail, there's also many different ways you can adopt, and we really landed on international adoption. And right when we were in the middle of walking through that road and starting all of our paperwork, the little nest egg that we thought we had for international adoption, which is about $25K, we began to live off of because the recession hit and we'd been in real estate flipping houses.
Oh, wow.
Yet, at the same time, we had made this decision to adopt, and we didn't feel like God had said no. I mean, we still had this little boy waiting for us in Rwanda, which is in East Africa, and I knew I needed to start a side hustle. I knew I needed to do something to bring income in to our family. And I had met some friends previously, a few months before, when my husband and I had actually visited East Africa to begin researching adoption. And when I met with these friends living in Uganda, they said, Jessica, we have this really talented couple that we know, Jalia and Daniel, and they are so talented. They are just extremely poor. They don't have a home. They aren't really able to put food consistently on the table. Their kids aren't in school. But we think they could be the future leaders of Uganda. That's how much we believe in them. So we were trying to help them out, and we gave them some work, and we shipped product off to my parents in America, but they sold a little bit of it, but they're kind of over it. And would you be interested in taking that product and selling it? And at the time when they asked me, we weren't broke yet. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I was in real estate, I had 2 babies, was starting adoption process, and I was like, no, but thanks for thinking of me.
Someone else should do that. Someone should really do that, not me.
Great idea for someone else.
Right.
And then when the bank account started really dwindling, I remembered that conversation and their offer. And I had had a long history of having a real passion for creating opportunities for the poor. I had lived overseas before. I'd lived in South America and in Guatemala, and I had seen entrepreneurship as this way to help people emerge from poverty. But it's not like I created a business plan about it. But I was attracted to this idea. So I drove to the storage unit, dusted off all of these beautiful African goods, invited all my friends to my house. Not only did I sell African goods, but I would like have my grandma's china on the fireplace.
Yeah,
I mean,
just getting creative.
Anything that could be sold, like, and you want to buy it, it's yours.
Right.
And I was so afraid no one was going to come. I think my biggest fear then was this fear that people weren't going to show up for me, fear of rejection. And women came. I mean, I had about 60 to 70 women show up at my house that night. We did about $4,500 in sales.
Wow.
I mean, people were overpaying a little bit. They're like, I know you're charging 20, but this is for your adoption. But later on that week, women were like, I didn't get my hands on that necklace. It sold out before I got to it. And I like, can you get more of this? And there was something about that night of women coming together around a story, around using their purchasing power for good, around rallying behind our adoption. There, it was like magnetic that night. And it really released courage in me. And I realized that night, this might not just be a fundraiser, this could be a business. I really just started asking women immediately, would you open your home for me and invite your friends if I came and showed up with some of these really beautiful artisan-made items? And they were like, yes, we would love to do that. I call my friends and I tell them, well, everything's sold. And they said, we want you to just use that money for your adoption, but why don't you purchase items now from Jolly and Daniel directly? We're going to connect you. And so they did. Jolly and Daniel didn't even have a computer. So they're like going to like internet cafes, old school style. I'm setting up a Western Union account. I pawned my gold jewelry at a pawn shop to fund the website. I mean, we were like scrapping away, scrappy as it gets. And today, Jolly and Daniel have 100 full-time employees.
Wow.
And have over 300 contractors that work with them to make the paper beads. And they are fully thriving, middle class, kids are in school, 2 cars. I mean,
amazing.
And just are really changing the legacy of that entire community. They told me recently that the police in that area, it's been 7 years now, have said crime has diminished in that area because of the work, the responsibility. You know, people wear their uniforms really proudly as they walk to work, and it's been an amazing journey. And so that's one of our partnerships. And then we now partner with 30 other businesses similar to theirs in 13 countries around the world.
Okay. Yeah. It's amazing because what you have done is so big and kind of like really difficult. It's not like you just started a business here in the United States and it stays self-contained and you know that, you understand it, you navigate the business world. Like you have got to have jumped through so many hoops and worked with so many connections and even just not knowing what you're doing. Like, oh, we set up a Western Union account and then I guess we'll go buy a website. Like
totally.
I love your story because I think there's this myth in the business world, certainly for women starting out, even if they're doing something less complicated than what you're doing in terms of a business idea, but they feel like, well, I don't know the right way and I'm not cut out for this and someone else should do this because I'm not business minded. But really the people that are winning in business are not people that have some special skill set or knowledge or MBA. It's just, I'm going to figure it out. I don't know if it's right, but I'm going to take the next step that seems like the right step.
Exactly.
And one step at a time. Look at what this has turned into. Like,
I mean, I did not. And for a while, like the pawn shop story that I just shared with you, selling all of my stuff, my grandma's china, I actually did not share that story for years.
Really?
Because I felt shame about that. And I did think for years that my story should have been, I have an MBA.
I have a business plan.
I went to fashion school. I had a business plan. I even had, just because I'm in the entrepreneurial world, being around a bunch of entrepreneurs that raise funding, VC funds. And I always thought, oh gosh, I'm less than because I'm not out raising money. We're bootstrapped. And what I've realized is that all those pieces of my story are what has actually been strengths and led to what I have today. And that there's never going to be a perfect time or perfect adequacies or perfect resources. I mean, we had no resources. I think that one of the biggest things people need when starting anything is the belief in themselves and in the idea. Because if you don't have that, then it is absolutely not going to get you through. And I think right now, like even Instagram, it has the word Insta And we do think Insta success. We think that that is an idea. I was actually watching, Oprah just did a video with British Vogue this week, and they asked her, like, what's the number one obstacle for young people? And she's like, they think success is instant now. They think they need to graduate college and, like, have their brand, you know? And success, maybe, yeah, it exists. Insta success exists. But, you know, even that, there's always a story behind a story.
That's right.
So it's like Maya Angelou says, I come as one, but I stand with 10,000, you know? Right. And you're never alone. I don't believe in this idea of, like, I'm a self-made person, you know? Right. We're not self-made. We've come with a history. We've come with people that have made sacrifices to get to where we are today.
Right.
And sacrifice is just part of business. And I think taking the long view, I mean, we didn't pay ourselves a salary for a couple years,
right.
you know? I mean, that was just the journey that we were on, but I believed so much in what we were doing. And then, of course, once Johnny and Daniel are hiring people, and I'm partnering with people in Guatemala, and I'm partnering with people that are coming out of the red light district in Ethiopia, and now we have a whole partnership in East Asia with women that are literally, they're doing marketing campaigns into brothels to woo them out because they have a dignified job to offer them through our jewelry. And that just lights me on fire.
It blows your mind, yeah.
It just lights me on fire.
Okay, so Jessica, how did you know how to do any of that? Like, how did you, how did you know?
How did I know?
How to do, like you didn't know what to do, but you figured out something to do. And so what was going on in you? Maybe give me some examples of, like, how in the world did you get in a brothel, Jessica?
Okay.
Like, how did your business expand in this way?
Okay.
And, you know, talk me through some of those because I don't know. I think it's easier to learn from examples maybe sometimes.
Right, totally.
And you didn't know. No one gave you a blueprint of how to do
this.
this.
No one gave me a blueprint. So I do think I'm not afraid to ask. Okay. And I think when you believe in your idea, you're not. There's no fear in the asking. And so I knew I needed an attorney to write it once we started the ambassador opportunities. So it was just me, myself, and I selling out of homes. And then I had women that began to contact me and say, I want to start a Noonday Collection business. I'm raising money for adoption as well. Like, could I basically franchise your business? And I said yes. Absolutely not knowing how that would work. As a matter of fact, the first person that reached out to me, I said, will you write the compensation plan? This was my style for years. It's still the joke at Noonday. They're like, Jessica's going to make you write your own job description.
I love it.
I mean, it's...
Delegate.
Yeah,
delegate.
I'm an over-delegator. So I was like, what? No. Anyway, and so I remember I reached out to several attorneys in town, and ends up a good friend that got back to me. I had another friend that was a copywriter at the time and had been doing some direct sales. We kind of knew that because I didn't know that industry at all. And so she, again, volunteered, did some copywriting for me, and I got another friend to do some of the graphic design. As far as actually finding these artisans, like I said, it started off very organically. So it was some friends of mine living in Uganda that said, we have some friends, we believe in them. Would you believe in them too? One of the next groups is a group of women in Rwanda, where the person that was helping us facilitate our adoption of my son Jack, her name's Jennifer, and I always knew I wanted really cute packaging for Noonday.
Okay.
You know, I was thinking brand and beauty and all of those things. So I was like, what about cute African bags? Do you know of any sewing groups? She goes, well, I do know of some sewing groups, but I actually know of quite a few women that are really poor, and if they knew how to sew, they could sew for you. Do you think we could put some women through sewing school? This is back when Noonday, was not a whole lot of anything. Right. But I went scared, you know? I went scared. And the scariest thing is when other people start to believe in you and the stakes go higher. Right. And I said yes to these women. And when I went, so we put them through sewing school, which rallied people to fund it. And when I went to go get Jack, I met with these women. They were just about to start sewing school. They were so apprehensive because they put skin in the game. They're having to find childcare for their kids. They're like, who is this white lady coming along? I mean, I look at the photos from that day and to compare to now. Well, they graduated sewing school 6 months later. At the time, I still was not sure I don't know how to design any bags or any of the things they can actually make. And then I had put something up on my blog, Amelie wearing a brand called Matilda Jane Clothing, which is just a cute clothing company. Right. The owner reaches out to me and she says, I want to be a part of whatever you're doing. And I said, well, I just had these women, they're about to graduate from sewing school. She goes, I'll send my design team to Africa. And they can design, and by the way, why don't I seed them $4,000 to help them rent a space?
Oh my gosh.
So to this day, these women 7 years later are creating our Noonday bags. But when I sat in that room with them 7 years ago, I was scared, they were scared, but
Right.
we went scared,
Right.
and we persevered. It hasn't all been easy. I mean, it can be quite a mess.
Yes.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
It's amazing. You said so many things that I want to pull out because I think this is so good for our listeners and for our viewers. So number one, you didn't know how to do most of anything you're doing
No,
right now.
I truly didn't.
Let's back this up. You were in real estate. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you were unqualified
Yeah,
and you did not
absolutely.
have the information.
No.
But what I love that you did that I want to highlight is you said yes before you knew how.
Yes.
So they said, will you put us through sewing school? You said yes. Had you ever run a sewing school
Oh,
before,
are you
Jessica?
kidding me?
Have you ever sewn yourself before, Jessica?
No.
No, I didn't even know that, but I just
Yeah.
could assume. Okay,
Thank you. You know me well.
But I love that attitude because I really do think that's an attitude that anyone can adopt, regardless of your
Yes.
personality style. You can adopt the attitude
Yes.
of saying yes before you know
Yeah,
how. You know,
yeah.
one of the stories I've shared on our podcast and stage before at our events is how I got started speaking. And it's a similar story.
Yes. You shared it on my podcast,
Yeah.
and I just love it.
Well, it's just such a great example where they said, we need a speaker. What are we going to do? I'd never spoken a day in my life. And I said, I'll do it.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
said, can you speak? And I said, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Did I
Yes.
know how?
No.
No idea. I just knew I had 2 weeks to
Yes.
figure something
That's
out
right.
before I put a
Yeah.
mic on my head and
Yes.
walked on stage. So that's a really important lesson that I want to make sure our listeners get and our viewers get, that you can say yes before you know how.
Yes.
So you didn't have the information, you're unqualified, you did it anyway. You did it scared, going scared. You said yes before you knew how. You had really key relationships. And, in a previous podcast, I talked about the value of key relationships.
Absolutely.
Where you never know when someone is going to show up and say, hey, I'll write that copy. Hey, I'll write those contracts. Hey, I'll send this money. I'll send this team. And really the real core of what's going on, even through those relationships, which will be the next thing I would like to highlight, is God provided.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
even in your lack, like your lack of resources,
Yes.
your lack of knowledge, your lack of experience, your lack of knowing how, God's like, I'm not asking you
Yeah.
to know any of that.
Right.
I'm not asking you to have all the money, have all the resources. I'm going to provide that. And I just love, because your story has so many elements that are right. Like if you
Right.
want a blueprint, this is the blueprint.
It
To
is.
say yes before you know how.
Yes.
To go scared and
Yeah.
and those types
Yeah.
of things. And I love that you were faithful with that and walking through those doors and really trusting with what God was leading you to do, even
yes.
when you weren't sure what that next step
I
was going
think
to be.
that you have to believe that God will show up for you, and God uses people.
Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you need help sorting through all of the thoughts in your mind and trying to figure out, is it fear or wisdom holding you back? Well, I've got a tool for you. You can download my fear or wisdom filter by clicking the link below.